Yo, check. Cool, we are live for another Stacker News Monday, going through top dev stories. Another all-time high week on the devs territory, I have to say. So it's cool. So more and more, I'm gonna be parsing through these stories and actually skipping some of them as I find them boring. But seems like a lot of good ones flew by this week. I haven't read very many of them, so I'm excited to get into it. Oh, it's Super. Hey, Super. Yeah, come here. Don't bump into anything.
Just give you a big hug.
Okay.
Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too.
Hi, Plebdevs. It's good. Enjoy Stacker News.
Legend. Thank you, Super. So glad to have you back in the lab. What do you think of the new lab?
My favorite part is the new Stacker News sign.
Yes.
And the part, that sign, and this part over there where car is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good space. The sign is actually, you can see the glow of the sign on my face on the camera. So that's how you know I'm truly at the doorstep in the gutter in front of Stacker News headquarters. So that's cool. Let's go. Yeah. We love Super. Okay, well, got a lot of stories to get through. So let's get started. So at the top, we're once again, as always, posts by ZapRank for the week. So yeah, as far as I know, ZapRank is the trust score plus the zaps. You can filter by just the sats as well, but I do ZapRank. So at the top here, Plebdevs tutorial, HTML and CSS. This was a little video I did last week. It's just a kind of an excuse to get your hands dirty and write your first website in about 20 minutes, if you've always wanted to do that. So definitely check that out if you're interested in writing some of your first code, writing your first website. I won't spend too long on my own stuff because, can only do that so much. Okay, right here. From Zeus Botirko, that's a mouthful. Where do you provide the most value for humankind? Bit of a typo here. There is an edit feature on Stacker News, but you only have 10 minutes. But we know what you mean, Zeus Botirko. So in general, I personally am kind of the type of person that's pretty interested in the edge of tech. I want to experience new and exciting projects and do what hasn't been done before. Or more realistically, at least work in a team close to that. Okay? But recently I thought what my skills are actually the most useful for. So the following scenarios against each other in the thought experiment. Okay? So edge, stay on the edge of tech, working on new stuff, much experimentation, many fails, startups, young and dynamic. Interesting. So I guess he's trying to look at the different trade-offs of how he can provide the most value for humankind, which is a very valiant framing. So the edge, you're on the edge of tech. Corporate, bringing old corporate environments further towards today. The key thought about this is that maybe enabling 10 older experienced devs is more valuable for mankind than only myself doing my best. Okay. C, other industries. Being the techie in other industries where nobody else can code is hard. Finding places where people are open to this is rare. Bureaucracy, and finding places where introducing coding over Excel are rare, but can sometimes do it 100x more for industries. So where do you think of yourself to make the biggest difference? Okay, a little bit messy of a write-up here, but I see the question, and it's a good question. So most people are voting A here for staying on the edge of tech, which kind of makes sense. We're a little bit biased on being on Stacker News, literally on the edge of some of the coolest tech. Okay, so let's see what the people say. Silky Ninja. I'm not a dev. I found this post on the front page. Something that crosses my mind is a benefit specialization brings to the species in a super wide spectrum. I'm very interested in cutting edge exercise science as it relates to my work. If I were not so specialized across a wide spectrum, professional athleticism, blah, 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 and even adjacent fields of study to develop new perspectives, exercise science would not exist. In my opinion, new perspectives in exercise science lead to better conclusions about what is physical health. Which benefit everybody. Not sure if this helps your problem, just something I've realized. My work benefits greatly from an ecosystem of great athleticism and scientific study of the mechanisms of human body. Neither of those two fields I could fully investigate alone. Okay, yeah, so that's a good point. It's kind of like you're at the edge of a field, but you're able to be extremely specific. But the reason you're able to do that is because you're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, I guess, and you're able to use other people's work that you couldn't have done it all yourself. So, I mean, it's a good point, and it's like, it's always true. You're almost always working within an ecosystem where people have built stuff prior to you. Always be edging. Let's go. I like working on new things. Yeah, I mean, what do you like doing? You don't need to look beyond the first one. It's the best reflection of what we Bitcoiners stand for. Yeah, value is subjective. That said, one interesting way to measure value is how many cumulative man hours are saved with a particular technology. That's a good point. Let's imagine you had an app that 1 million people use every day to achieve a certain outcome. Let's also assume they each need to spend 15 minutes using the app to reach their outcome. That equates to a cost on humanity of 250,000 human hours. If you can reduce the time spent in the app from 15 minutes to 14 minutes, you've given back 16,666 hours back to those people. Interesting. Okay, good points. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good question. It's a high level question. You know, how do you make the biggest impact for humankind? But I feel like it's very subjective to you. It's very specific for you. And it's also like, do you want to do that? Maybe you want to do something super specific. Maybe you want to make art and that will make people's lives better. But it's not quite as measurable, as quantifiable. But either way, interesting question. I mean, for me, I like being on the edge of tech. And yeah, I don't like being corporate. I find that it holds me back. It keeps me from doing more work than I would have done, and more work that I think in the end helps people. I mean, hopefully. And then other industries. I was a delivery boy. I like doing that. I listen to a lot of podcasts. But yeah, in general, I like staying on the edge of tech, and I think that's a great way to make impact because it is the frontier where there's new opportunity always. Okay, onward. Label base, all-in-one coin control and label management service for Bitcoin. Okay. Link to a Geyser Fund project, so they are seemingly raising funds. All-in-one coin control label management service for Bitcoin. Add, import, export labels. REST API for integration. Supports BIP 329 format. Stay organized. Yeah, so I guess this is within the idea of, the practice, which you should do, of labeling your transactions, labeling your UTXOs on chain. Seems to be a management service. Features for adding labels, importing, exporting, API. Okay, yeah, kind of just repeating the first line. Let's see what it looks like. Nothing yet. What's BIP 329? Let's look it up. BIP 329. Wallet labels export format. Okay, so it's a format for exporting labels. Export of funds across Bitcoin wallet applications. Okay, well, that's cool. Useful service. I mean, this is the kind of thing that it almost seems like a micro app that you would want other wallet devs to implement. Like that would be cool. I mean, if I'm building a wallet and I am, want you to be able to import your labels and manage your labels, I would probably want to use something like this instead of have to build it from scratch each time, So, cool project. Throw you some zaps. Okay. That's my video from last week. From Zarko, HTML templates instead of reactivity. Okay, so it's a video here. The Primogen, shout out. Well, I mean, I guess the basic idea here is probably instead of using a framework like React that has not real HTML, but stuff that we call JSX that allows you to re-render and recompute the UI all the time. Very confusing. Using HTML templates instead. So having your dynamic data live on the back end, serve it up in static templates onto the front end. So there's a lot of good reasons to do that. Let's see what David W. says. I think we're going to see much more creative thinking like this, or people building with bog standard HTML like Super does. Shout out Super. It feels like it's going to take a flurry of attacks, but then common awareness in these coming years that third-party dependencies and frameworks are a huge liability and introduce immeasurable vulnerabilities. Hope I'm wrong. But what do I know? How do you devs think about convenience versus security? The node ecosystems. NPM-E, the node ecosystem is hell of a liability. I'm slowly searching for a more secure and healthier approach. Yeah. So I guess, great comments, by the way. This is a good point from David W. So, you know, when you're building, if we're trying to build resilient software, we want to reduce dependencies. Like they're named dependencies for a reason. So that's something that's always true. But my angle and my bent is I'm always building these prototype projects, these example projects, tutorials. And when I started learning how to code, I didn't learn through the framework of the hardest security practices. Really, I was just trying to learn. I was just trying to make it. But for a lot of people, they start with these tools because these tools abstract away a lot of difficult things to deal with as a developer. So those abstractions are nice because they save you time and they may make it easier to get started or create something of quality that you might not be able to create on your own, doing it all from scratch. So those are reasons that I think people use React, something like that, or heavily depend on multiple libraries and dependencies. But then eventually you get to the point where you're building something that maybe you need to optimize for security. So that's where you might reduce dependencies. That's where you might use a static framework, a static front-end framework that's very simple and handle everything on the back end, and then on the back end use heavily strongly typed language, you know, Rust, Go, TypeScript, or whatever. But those are all steps along this process, and I think that people, when they're in the earliest building phase, me at least, I return to these same tools that help me build something fast and that I'm familiar with, and where I know I can grab a package for this and a package for this. But that's just my perspective. Either way, I think David is totally right, and I think this is the very Bitcoiner type of opinion that's true and sneaking up on all of us devs as a reality that, like, yes, in a lot of ways, we're building our apps on the sand with a bunch of dependencies. So, okay, interesting comment there out of HTML templates. iMessage 0-day exploit for sale in the dark web. This sounds fun. From Cowboy. Damn, that's a good name. .eth? Oh no. Okay, let's see what it is. Threat intel detected an iOS iMessage 0-day exploit for sale in the dark web. It's a zero-click exploit to take over control of the phone via iMessages. Its asking price is $2 million. So they're selling this software on the dark web. $2 million. This would make sense for very high-value individual targets, as more of the 0-day is used. More likely, it is caught in the wild by researchers. I say, so they discovered this exploit, but they don't want to just like start using and abusing it. They want to use it as little as possible to make the most profit. Or I guess the person that discovered it, really, they just want to sell it. They don't want to deal with that risk. Hey, there's me. Oh yeah, and Trust Wallet found this. Trust Wallet, I think they're like a shitcoin wallet. I think they discovered this independently. Alert for iOS users. We have credible intel regarding a high-risk zero-day exploit targeting iMessage on the dark web. I actually saw this and I turned my iMessage off. It's actually still off, I think. So shout out to Trust Wallet. Props where props are due. But yeah, that's crazy. More and more Apple exploits. Like, I know there was a Mac M1 exploit that apparently an app that had access to your processor could basically run its own processes independently, which is like the ultimate pwn. So yeah, it's crazy. Thanks for sharing, Cowboy. All right, another Plebdevs story here. I posted this today. Review of the Bitcoin halving code. I had the idea on the halving. I was like, I haven't looked at the block subsidy code in a long time. And I remembered, I thought someone did a video on it forever ago. Maybe it was Andreas Antonopoulos or someone like that. But I was like, hey, I should review the code and see if I understand it and see if we can kind of go through Bitcoin Core and sort of test it out and play around with it. So did that. That was pretty cool. Okay, the next two are also mine. This one is fun though. I'm excited to talk about this one. Bitcoin new integer overflow bug at block height 2,147,483,647. So this is a Bitcoin core issue. I actually saw Brian Bishop is the one that initially shared this on the Twitter. Yeah, let's open this up. And zoom in. Look at this title. Insane. So sign integer overflow and get block subsidy. It's crazy too, because this was the exact code I was reviewing in my halving video. I mean, it's like literally 11 or 10 lines of code. So I missed this in my review. Oops. And get block subsidy at block height 2,147,000,000 during epoch 10,227. So having 2,1026 could increase the block subsidy total supply or potentially halt the network. So overflow bug, very bad. So the get block subsidy function could potentially encounter a signed integer overflow if in height, so this is the block height, reaches the next value at this number, 2 billion, causing it to wrap to negative 2 billion. This overflow can disrupt the halving mechanism implemented in the function, particularly around the calculated 10,226th halving interval derived from int_max divided by in subsidy halving interval. Yeah, so this is the exact code that we reviewed. And this is the line that he's talking about. So it's a division, but we see that in height here, which is the block height, is an integer. And that integer has a max number of bytes. And I guess those bytes overflow at this number. That's how it seems. And when that happens, it flips over to the negative. So the implication, such an overflow could lead to erroneous block subsidy calculations, impacting not only the subsidy value, but also the overall supply curve of the cryptocurrency. Yeah, that's really bad. Expected behavior, further analysis. It's conceivable that additional changes of the code might be necessary, especially in relation to handling the overflow of block height. Currently, with in height as an integer type, Bitcoin is projected to reach its limit at the 10,226th halving, which corresponds to approximately the year 42,913. So about 2,900 years away. Sorry, 40,900 years. And he does the map here, 10,026 times 4 plus 2009. So every 4 years, yeah, on average. So that 4 is kind of stepping in for the 210,000. So, yeah. This was just funny to highlight. Very low time preference thinking. So we have 40,000 years to fix it. I think that's what Jason said here. Whoa, the good news is we got about 40,000 years to resolve this bug, right? Exactly. Increase your time horizon. Yeah, exactly. Bitcoiners think in decades. It was fun while it lasted. Bitcoin is dead, everyone. Someone restart Bitcoin. Unplug it and plug it back in. Okay, so that was a fun one. Another Plebdevs workshop from this past weekend, Nostr Wallet Connect, with our good friend Damien. And yeah, this it's my favorite protocol on Nostr. It's my favorite feature of Nostr Wallet Connect. So I highly suggest you learn about this protocol. It will give you a huge edge as a app builder, especially as an app builder that wants to work with Lightning. Nostr Wallet Connect, it unlocks a lot, has an amazing user experience. So I really suggest you check that out. Okay, ECMA script 2024 takes shape. It's from Choke 1. The latest update to the JavaScript standard brings 7 new features, including array grouping, growable, array buffers, and promises with resolvers. Okay, so I was learning how to code when the last JavaScript or ECMAS script update happened. So that's kind of cool. That was like 5 or 6 years ago or something like that. So update to ECMA standard. Let's see the features. Where are the features? Oh, it doesn't say. So for array grouping, I don't know what that means. Proposal array grouping. Make groupings of item in an array and iterables easier. Okay, that's kind of cool. Array grouping, array buffer transfer, resizable and growable array buffers. Serve as sync up capability with WebAssembly memory growth. That's pretty cool. Well, we know what WebAssembly is. So more memory for WebAssembly. That's bullish. There's more and more people building with WebAssembly. Tidwell was telling me, I think he's building his Bitcoin game in Rust and compiling it to WebAssembly. Asynchronous atomic await. That sounds fucking cool. Excuse my language. Atomic await, primarily for use in agents that are not allowed to block. Oh, so like a non-blocking await. An agent on a separate thread. Okay, I don't totally get it, but that was a cool name. All right, new JavaScript standard. Thanks for sharing. Choke 1. Could probably still take years to get into place. Example of a 6-second rule out in the wild. This is a fun one. So this was me from last week. Okay, let's, do we need to open this? Yeah, we need to open this on Twitter. So the 6-second rule, if you haven't heard about this, it's just the idea of like recruiters only look at your resume for like 6 seconds. So this guy, I applied to 100 jobs using a resume with the name Kisma D Nuts, and I got 29 interviews. This is what I've learned about resumes. So he puts his resume here. Put your recruiter hat on and read this resume. Would you give this person an interview? Okay, just give it like, zoom in, can we zoom in? Okay, if you can read that, just read this for like 20 seconds. Would you give this guy an interview? Just 20 seconds. You're a busy recruiter. Okay. So he goes on to say, one more chance. Are you sure you give this person an interview? I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, kinda. He looks good. How about now? Most recruiters only spend about 6 seconds reviewing your resume. Therefore, they will not read through all of your bullets initially. Focus on crafting the perfect resume template. This guy's shilling his product, I think, which that's genius marketing. But this is what he highlighted here. To provide a 420 FPS on-screen experience with Lana Rhodes. Hosting orgies on Friday. My dog winning the World Cup by 20%. So yeah, basically he put a bunch of garbage in there. Directly connected with rich sugar daddies to successfully raise 150 million. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But yeah, he got, how many jobs did he say? Or interviews or whatever? I got 29 interviews out of 100. Despite that, we got 29 interviews at these big, medium, and small companies, which shows that the 6-second rule isn't isolated to a specific size of company. Remember the hidden eye tracking experiment with recruiters. They read in an F format, which means the biggest factors in your resume are, as long as your resume looks like a good resume, the template I shared above, 80% of your bullet points must have numbers, clear job titles. Wow, I've never seen this before. That's really interesting. The F. Damn. Recruiters can only read in the shape of an F. That's crazy. Can I get an F in the chat? Okay, so I thought that was kind of funny. And just a good reminder for, I guess when you're crafting that stuff, trying to get a job. All right, onward. Question. Why don't there is a limited supply of cowboy hats on SN? I think I commented on this one. An idea came to mind. Limited supply of cowboy hats on SN will be amazing. People hunt for hats, battle for hats, anxiety about losing it, trade it, buy it, sell it for sats. I'm not a very good cowboy. I'm not a top cowboy by any means. But some cool ideas to gamify the cowboy hat further. There is. It's just capped at 21 million hats. Not 21 million. It'd be 2.1 quadrillion. Actually, I love that meme. Or random rewards for folks with cowboy hats. That's a cool idea. Hat should give an extra benefit, so it would be more coveted. This is what I said. Something I thought that would be cool is if you could randomly find a 10-gallon hat, gives you a temporary boost to your trust score, thereby increasing the default reach of your posts. This would incentivize you to post, to still to earn sats, but would give you a distinct edge while wearing it. So I like that kind of stuff. Like you can earn it, and then you have an advantage, but that advantage still has you creating more, hopefully good content on StackerNews. So I think the bar for hat acquisition should be raised, but 1 hat per user is a fine supply. Okay. So feature request, throw it in the devs territory. It makes sense. All right. Programming sucks is the title of this. From stilldrinking.org. That's a great TLD. That definitely sounds like a senior engineer. Stilldrinking.org. Okay, what does he say here about programming sucks? Every friend I have with a job that involves picking up something heavier than a laptop more than twice a week eventually finds a way to slip something like this into a conversation. Bro, you don't work hard. I just worked 4,700-hour week digging a tunnel under Mordor with a screwdriver. They have a point. Mordor sucks. And it's certainly more physically taxing to dig a tunnel than poke at a keyboard, unless you're an ant. But for the sake of the argument, can we agree that stress and insanity are bad things? Awesome. Welcome to programming. All programming teams are constructed by and of crazy people. All code is bad. There will always be darkness. Of course, because we're in dark mode. A lot of work is done on the internet, and the internet is its own special hellscape. We didn't start our crazy. We're being driven crazy. We didn't start out crazy. Nice. So bullet points summarizing the article. I see 0x Bitcoiner. I see you. Summarizing the article so I don't have to dig through it myself. That's nice. Yeah, these are pretty good takes. I especially like these first two ones. All programming teams are constructed by and of crazy people, and all code is bad. This has definitely been my experience. But also, I've done, I would say, blue collar work and different kinds of work before. I used to set up stages. Used to be a leather working apprentice. I used to be a delivery boy. I worked at Panera Bread for 7 years. So I've had a lot of different jobs, not exactly like construction jobs. But I definitely look back at my delivery job the most, and I miss it. Because I was moving around a lot. I was outside a lot. And yeah, programming can be depressing. It's really hard. It's kind of like, but you're buying into this default lifestyle that by default you're going to get driven crazy and be isolated alone and stuck inside and have a bad back. So it's like you're making those trade-offs of lifestyle for, I guess, more money or because you want to do it. But then it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you can, like, I'm standing up right now. My back is fine. I get sun. I walk pretty often every day. But yeah, it's hard. It's kind of like that's the default. You're stuck at a desk. But lots of other people are stuck at a desk in their jobs doing something worse than programming, like not even really solving problems at all and just working in Excel all day. Or I don't know what they do, but I think that's work. I think programming is cool. It's fun. It's exciting. But yeah, you, especially if you're just like a remote dev or whatever, you're gonna be stuck inside. So you have to figure out how to have a healthy lifestyle and not be driven crazy and move on when you join a team of crazy people. But yeah, all code is still gonna be bad. That is a fact. There will always be darkness. I was born in the darkness. But yeah, that was a funny post. Thank you, 0x Bitcoiner. Release 3.0 Bitcoin hardware wallet interface. Let's check it out. So this is Bitcoin Core, HWI releases. So HWI is the hardware wallet interface. It's also available on PyPy and can be installed with pip install -u HWI. Emulators option to enumerate and detect emulators. Rebuild to attempt to avoid antivirus false positive. Okay, I've never messed around with HWI, but cool to see an update here. What does it say on PyPy? The Bitcoin hardware wallet interface is a Python library and command line tool for interacting with hardware wallets. It provides a standard way for software to work with hardware wallets without needing to implement device-specific drivers. Yeah, so this was, I know not everyone uses HWI as far as I know, but it's just like the attempt to have a more standardized interface between the hardware wallet devices and the software that might be accessing them. Like if you might have Blue Wallet as your on-chain hot wallet or something like that, and maybe interacts with your cold card or a number of other different devices. So it's good to have a standardized interface. So 3.0, good number. Let's go. Thanks for sharing. Roll. Another good name. Okay, what do we got here? Coin selection. Okay. Let's check out coin selection. Coin selection is the method a wallet uses to choose which UTXOs to spend in a particular transaction. It's actually an interesting topic. Most early Bitcoin wallets implemented relatively simple coin selection strategies, such as spending UTXOs in the order they were received, first in, first out. But if fees have become more of a concern, some wallets have switched to a more advanced algorithm that tries to minimize transaction size. Coin selection strategies can also be used to improve on-chain privacy by trying to avoid the use of UTXO associated with previous transactions in later unrelated transactions. That's crazy. So these are all the mentions across time from Bitcoin Optech. Yeah, that is a hard problem. So if you don't understand this little aspect of Bitcoin, let me pull up mempool. So the fees in Bitcoin are measured by, we have this metric, VB, virtual bytes. Can essentially just think of it as bytes. I'm not going to describe what virtual bytes is right now. I'm going to get triggered. But so the cost of your transaction, of course, we know in Bitcoin, it's not measured by how big of a transaction you're creating as far as the value of Bitcoin. You can move, 1,000 Bitcoin, and it can be the same price as me moving 1,000th of a Bitcoin. But it's the size of the transaction, and the size of the transaction is based on the inputs and outputs. So I guess this is a bad example because they have one input. Let me find just another random transaction here. $1,000. Let's click on this one. One input. I want to find a transaction with multiple inputs. Okay, here we go. So we've got multiple inputs and one output. And this is actually a good example of a consolidation right here. This looks like a UTXO consolidation. So, whoever this person is, they have all these little bits of Bitcoin, these separate UTXOs, these separate outputs. They're sitting in their wallet, and they spin it into a transaction to go back into one single thick, girthy output. And of course, this is the fee. This is the fee that's going to the miner. So you always have that split. There's always going to be at least two outputs because of a fee or potentially change. Though the fee isn't technically, it is an output. It is an output, sorry. But yeah, so we see all of these bits of data consolidating into this one bit of data. The size of this transaction is 1.23 kilobytes. Virtual size of 584 VB. And what did he pay? 72,000 sats. I can't even believe 72,000 sats is $48. That's crazy. I feel like that's still like $8. But yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, the considerations, coin selection. So like, if you have a wallet with a bunch of these and you're just an ignorant user, you're spending your money, like, what is the criteria for which these outputs should be selected? Kind of like a really hard problem. So I would love to see more of a write-up on this that's less dense. Some nice bullet points. I love bullet points. To dig into that more. But yeah, thanks for sharing, Roll. That was awesome. Zaps are flying. Origin hacker broke the DVD security code. SQL learning roadmap. What is gRPC? Must read for any front-end dev. Let's look at this SQL learning roadmap. This diagram provides high-level roadmap of the core SQL concepts and how they fit together. Covers key elements like databases, tables, data types, functions, and essential statements to query and modify data. Use this visual overview to guide your learning journey and grasp the different pieces of SQL work together. So cool. I always look for graphics like this for my workshops and my slideshows, my courses. But sometimes graphics, they can be even more confusing. So how to learn SQL is the graphic. So these are some of the different concepts. Target operation, DDL. I don't know what this means. What does DDL stand for? DQL. So these are queries. So is that database query language, database something language? So we've got our clauses and our queries. This is a lot of what we do from join, inner join, left join, right join. This is more of an architectural overview of SQL. I wouldn't say it's a very good way of learning SQL. What is What is DDL and DML in SQL? DCL. DCL stands for data control language. DDL stands for data definition language. DML stands for data manipulation language. Okay. Okay, that would be nice if that was on this chart right here. So we've got data querying, data, what is it? What was it? DDL, data definition, data management, DCL and TCL. Okay, that's interesting. I want, like, I like how this looks in general, but I want like a series of more graphics that break this down and give me some bullet points, explanations. But thanks for sharing, Isaac. What is gRPC? I use gRPC all the time. We use it quite a bit with Plebdevs. Got a summary here, so that's nice. gRPC is a high-performance, open-source remote procedure call framework. Whoa! Initially developed by Google. Leverages HTTP/2 for transport, protocol buffers as the interface description language, and provides features such as authentication, load balancing, and more. So key features of gRPC: speed. It's built on HTTP2 and protobufs for high throughput and low latency. Yeah, so that's usually the reason I use gRPC is speed, and also it's not asynchronous, it's synchronous. So you can like open up, it's kind of like opening up a WebSocket or something on Nostr. You open up a socket and you can start reading data in continually and not just like requesting or pulling for it. The compact protobuf binary format means smaller payloads than JSON. Okay, I see. I always wondered what protobuf meant, or what you were doing exactly with gRPC, because I usually abstract some of this away with libraries. Speaking of dependencies and using dependencies, relying on them. But I guess it like takes your commands in like a JSON format, but then it codes it in binary to have it just be faster and more efficient. So type safety, polyglot, write services in many popular languages. It's got a great ecosystem, many tools for codegen, load balancing, monitoring, and more. Okay, drawbacks of gRPC: it's more complex. Defining protobuf schemas and setting up gRPC can have a learning curve. Yeah, which is why I always have done this with libraries that kind of abstract it away and help you a bit more. It's not human readable. Protobufs are binary. Who says binary is not human readable? I took base 58 and binary. Wait, no, that's hex. Never mind. I'm a dummy. But hex started to become pretty human readable, thanks to base 58. Limited browser support. gRPC works best for backend and microservices, not front-end apps. Yes, have also had that experience. So let's see this graphic. I feel like I'm gonna hate it. I already hate it. Okay, local call versus RPC remote procedure call. So process order management, local call, payment, data format, string required, string repeated optional, use cases. Okay, yeah. How do we transmit data via gRPC? Client application, RPC call. So it gets encoded. Client stub. I guess that's the binary encoding. gRPC runtime sends it via the transport HTTP transport protocol. So it receives the receiver, transport, 5 receive, decodes, local call, return, encodes it back, sends it back, receive, decode, result. Okay, that's actually kind of simple. Client application, server application. I don't know how HTTP2 totally works. Let's see if we can find a graphic. HTTP2 graphic. Open image in new tab. Multiplexing. I actually read about this on another top devs. So this is HTTP 1.1, 3 TCP connections. So someone's got like jQuery, jexample.css, image. So they're all on different threads or different TCP connections. I see. So multiplexing allows you to group them together into one TCP connection. And I guess that's the difference between HTTP 1 and 2. So you can have multiple connections for different types of data, but over the same TCP socket, I guess is how that works. So that's interesting. So gRPC is just leveraging that in like a binary format to super speed it. Okay, well, kind of cool. Thank you for sharing, Azik. Let's see. Yeah, that was about it for the week. So that was good. Some cool stories, a few memes, a few bugs, a few exploits. Well, only one exploit, but there's one that wasn't shared here. I know that for sure. But nice. Thank you to all those that are continuing to post on the devs territory on StackerNews. Appreciate it. I don't have a chart, but I feel like the numbers are going up. More zaps, more comments, more posts. So yeah, we'll still be here.